Welcome to the Brighter Financial Blueprint podcast, where we will explore retirement and legacy strategies for affluent families and business owners seeking clarity, confidence, and intentional wealth design. I'm Megan Clark, RICP CEO, Clark Financial Solutions advisory firm, helping families create sustainable retirement strategies. In this podcast, we go beyond traditional planning talk and focus more on real, lifelong planning strategies. And that starts with a blueprint, not a balance sheet. Unfortunately, most investors think about their investments and look at their net worth or their balance sheet. They look at their investment returns, investment performance as it relates to the market, but that won't get you where you want to go. A blueprint is a design strategy that coordinates income sequencing, tax efficiency, longevity, and legacy impact. Without that intentional design, even significant net worth can underperform when it matters most. Let me tell you a story. So most of our clients that we chat with, we talk about their investments and relate it to the beloved junk drawer, that junk drawer that almost all of us have in the kitchen. And that drawer is so important. It has so many important tools inside of it, whether they're pens or Sharpies, a pair of scissors, ours has an Allen wrench in it, whatever your junk drawer might have. And so a lot of times when we meet clients, they come in and meet with us, and throughout their lifetime, they've collected great investments, great tools, a wonderful 401k from a past job. Somewhere along the way, they started a Roth IRA, and somewhere along the way, they bought life insurance policies. So they've collected all of these items, all of these tools, and they've put them into their financial drawer. But what's missing is that blueprint saying, what do I actually use this tool for? When do I use it? And how do I make the most out of this tool that I have? And that's where the blueprint really comes into play and helps our client families and business owners make sense of everything that they've collected throughout their entire life. So while that stuff in that junk drawer may be titled the junk drawer, those tools may be really helpful, and we're able to help our clients make sense of them and put them in a coordinated fashion where we're being tax efficient, where we're taking advantage of strategies that we need to take advantage of at the right time, and making sure that they have that blueprint in place so that they know where they're going. Without this blueprint, that junk drawer, what we call that in our office is we call it actually structural inefficiency. And it is the silent wealth eroder. This isn't about market risk. This isn't about volatility. This is about strategy execution. Let me tell you a little story that we normally talk about with our client families, and it talks about the grocery store. So think about when you go to the grocery store, do you have a list, right? Do you make a list of the items that you need? Who does that in your household? Is it you? Is it your significant other? Do you send one of your kids? Who goes? Are you using a delivery service, right? So anyways, think about that list and what that looks like. But let's just say for purpose of the story, you're headed to the grocery store, you have a list of items that you're planning to buy, and there's something on that list that you buy often, whether it's bread or milk or something that your household uses every week. And so you walk around the grocery store and you grab the different items off the shelves and you put them in your cart, and you see a few things that aren't on the list that you want to buy. So you make those little impulse buys and throw them in the cart, and you're walking around the grocery store and collecting everything that you need and checking off your list. And then you get up to the checkout counter and you start ringing up your items, and you ring up one of those items that you get every single week, whether that be, let's just say it's a gallon of milk. So you're ringing up the gallon of milk, and you ring it up, and it rings up for twice as much as it normally is. And you think, wow, did prices go up that much? And so you go get a manager and you say, hey, I rang up this price and it's twice as much as it normally is. And you and the manager walk back to the shelf, and sure enough, it's It's double the price that's advertised on the shelf. And so the manager walks back to the checkout line with you and helps you correct it, right? It's because you wouldn't pay more for what you're buying than what's advertised. And so you are happy, get that checked out, the manager fixes it in the system, you're ready to go. What's the purpose of my story? Well, the purpose of my story is that in our financial life, more often than not, we collect these items like we talked about before that are now sitting in our collective junk drawer in the kitchen, and we've collected them throughout time, and you paid a certain price for them, or so you thought. And now we're not really sure how much we're paying for those investments as time goes on. Because unfortunately in our industry, you're not seeing the price, right? You may have an account and it may have several mutual funds in it, and those mutual funds are all being managed by employees that all have desks and they all have computers and they all have technology and they're all getting paid a salary, but you have no idea how much you're actually paying for that investment management of that mutual fund. And even the most diligent of our investors, they go and they research and they figure out, hey, the expense ratio is, 0.03% because maybe it's a low cost indexed fund. And they're very proud of the fact that they're not paying a lot for that mutual fund. But then when they come in to see us and they bring their statements and we do an actual full analysis for them, we illustrate and show them that the expense ratio is not 100% of what they're paying in fees. So there's a really good article that's not affiliated with our firm that you can go, research, and it's called The Real Cost of Owning a Mutual Fund. It's a little outdated, but it, still rings true as far as the costs that go on inside a mutual fund that you're paying that you don't know about. And so if we're paying for something that we thought was $5, right? That gallon of milk is $5, but really behind the scenes, we're getting charged a total of $10. Now our wealth is getting eroded without us even knowing. So we're lacking that intentional design that we are looking for with the Brighter Financial Blueprint. And that blueprint guides us to make sure that we're not overpaying, because that extra $5 every year, it adds up. And when you add compound interest to it, now over the course of your lifetime, a lot of our client families have lost out of hundreds of thousands of dollars in their retirement portfolios because they were overpaying for investments because they didn't really understand how much they were paying. And so just like your grocery cart and just like collecting items in your junk drawer, we have items that we own that maybe we're not sure what they cost us anymore. And so one of the tools that we'll work with our families on is understanding the true cost of what you're paying. So let's talk a little bit about the components of a blueprint and what that involves for the families and business owners that we work with. The components of a blueprint are made up of several different items, but it's all the different tools in the toolbox, so to speak, and how they interact with each other, how they work with each other. And it's not just an ad hoc, hey, take your retirement income from this account this year and that account next year. It is a structured sequence, engineered sequence withdrawal plan for our client families in their retirement years. And the reason that we do it this way is to make sure that we are being as tax efficient as possible and taking into account the different calculations that come into play for your retirement years. Two of these calculations, which you may or may have not heard of before, are the provisional income calculation and the IRMAA calculation. Those two calculations affect how much of your retirement income from Social Security gets taxed, and also how much you'll end up paying for your Medicare premium. So depending on where we're taking income from in our retirement years, once we're at those ages where we're taking Medicare, taking advantage of Medicare benefits, and we're taking our Social Security benefit, depending on where our income's coming from, we could be in a place where we're not paying any taxes on our Social Security income, or we could be at a place where we're paying up to income tax we're paying income taxes on up to 85% of the benefit that's coming from Social Security. And likewise with your Medicare premium in that IRMAA calculation, we could be in a spot where we're paying a couple $100 a month per person for Medicare, or we could be at a spot where we're paying north of $500 a month per person for Medicare, which can have a massive long-term impact on our retirement plans for our client families. So it's really important to make sure that that blueprint is in place, not only to get you to retirement, but also once you're at retirement, that income plan and that blueprint is in place to make sure that that income is taken in the most tax efficient, engineered, sequenced manner that we can even really look at. Looking at our trademarked process, the Brighter Financial Blueprint, we're looking at our clients, not only getting them to their goal of experiencing their dream retirement, but we're also looking at how do we make sure that these dollars that they've worked their entire lives to save, and they've worked very hard to do that, how do we make sure that they're the most efficient as possible in your retirement years? And that's where the blueprint is so incredibly important, and what we're going to be talking about in the upcoming series that we're launching here. So every episode will be a different topic, and we look forward to having you on board. So stay tuned for more information about the Brighter Financial Blueprint.